Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose? Hello, everybody, and welcome to not just one podcast, but two podcasts. What the hell does that mean? Well, I'm Simone Milasas. Welcome to the Choice, Change, Action podcast. And we have here with us
Heather Nichols and the Creation of Living podcast. It's like our podcasts are going on a date tonight.
They are. They're going on a date. First date together. I wonder if they'll make out. My sense is they probably will. So if you're wherever you're listening to this, you can catch it on the other podcast. It's going to be exactly the same. We have a topic that we wanted to talk about, and it's of mutual enthusiasm and excitement that we have for this project, that we went, let's do a podcast together, and then went, let's put it on both of those platforms. And also, if your Choice, Change, Action podcast is now found on YouTube as well. So if you want to see us, you can go to YouTube as well. Is yours on YouTube as well?
No, it is. Yeah. We don't always put the video up, but we will for this one.
Okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You can see Heather and myself on the on YouTube as well. So what is the topic that we wanted to talk about? Eluga, the place. So this is Eluga is a property in Costa Rica that Heather is an investor in. I'm an investor in, and it's been it's been such an adventure. It's been such a trip with this whole thing and how it's been created. As a business, and both of us, of course, are Joy Business Facilitators. So we were like, "Ooh, let's talk about this too," with that, with that energy of business done different, because it really is business done different. And I'm just going to give a little bit of information to begin with. Is it's called Eluga, which is Spanish for the place, and the place is a book written by Gary Douglas, who is the founder of Access Consciousness. I highly recommend you go get it. It's at, all your normal, big time places. Amazon, basically. I think everyone just goes to Amazon, right? So Amazon, get the place. It's also in audio, which is hysterical because it's in Gary Douglas's voice, and he reads it like at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but you can like pause it and listen to it again. It's fabulous. And this book talks about how to be with other people, with animals, with the land, basically a life that I'm pretty sure most of you know that we can create. Like, we get to choose how we be on this planet. And when Gary wrote this book, I know I've done a podcast actually on my podcast with Gary previously that we replayed it, I think, a week or two ago, and we were actually at the property in Costa Rica and spoke about it and how it all came about. But when he was writing this book, I had the great pleasure of hearing it. Like, he started reading it to me as he was writing it. And there was one day I was in a hotel room with him and Dane here, and he turned around because he's reading this book, and we just started crying, and he looked at us and went, "Is it bad?" I'm like, "No, it's not bad. It's like everything I know that should be here on the planet. That's how we should be with each other. That's how we should be with the land. What if we function from no judgment? It's like, this interesting point of view, allowance, all of this, and all the tools of Access Consciousness are sort of, I guess, like thread throughout this book. And some of the story that he talks about is derived from moments that he had in his life, and pinged him to an awareness of something that could be if we chose it. So this property in Costa Rica is stunning. It's like, and stunning from, I guess for me, it's like the energy that this property just exudes and what it's like. So Heather, you've been there multiple times. What's it for you?
Well, the first time I went, I just cried the whole time. Not from any sort of emotional anything, it was like my body just released tears. We rode horses. There was nothing there at the time. This was like, I don't even know if they had started buying it. It was sort of like, or maybe they had started the process, but it was like,
well, let's talk about that for 1 second, like a little excerpt, because I'd like to like sort of explore this energy of business done different and how you can be in business in like this ecosystem of business, like and how it sort of works. And we went looking for all these properties in Costa Rica because we went, oh, let's have a property in Costa Rica. We kept going there and doing these large events. What if we created one? We have horses down there. It was sort of like a no-brainer. That makes sense. Let's have a business here. So we looked at all these properties, and I got some of the roads in Costa Rica that we were driving on, like, for hours in these vans and stuff. And then we finally got to this one property, the one that we have now. And we, drove in the front and we're standing there. We got out of the van, we're looking and we're like, wow, this is beautiful. And Claudia Cano, who's been a major contribution in the whole, creation of this as well, she looked at us and she went, well, this is the ugly part. And we're like, what? And then we went across this bridge. We went across this bridge to the other part of the property and started exploring that, and was just like, wow. It felt like, one of those things where you go, National Geographic show, cue the goanna. Yeah, okay, cue the toucans, toucans, like cue this. Like it was just like boom, boom, boom. Exotic butterflies. Wow, huge, massive. Like the land was just so alive. And what they've had on that land is cows. Like that's what they've had for a very, very long time. So the land has sort of been left alone as well, especially that back part. And we are doing that too. We're leaving that back part, alone. So that's where you went horse riding.
Yeah, we went across the bridge and we went horse riding. We went to the river and swam in the river. And I just remember really having this sense of like, this is the earth. Like, this is what the earth is, and it was really this very like visceral sense that land has never been damaged or bastardized or like, compromised in any way. It was just like that like the energy of the earth just was allowed to be and grow and build, and my body was like, oh, just so relieved, and so happy and grateful to be there. Because I knew it addressed something in me of like, I've always known that this existed and that this was possible. And now here it is.
Yeah. Well, and as you mentioned before, we didn't own it then either. And that was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in how, business, I guess, relationships can work, and being in communion and looking at not just the business and how much money can I have in my pocket today. Like the people who owned the land previous to us had this energy of what does the land require? What does the land desire? So we originally went, okay, we would love to have this. And then, got a quote, et cetera, the price. And we went, eek, we don't have that money. And we sort of looked at like how we can get this money together, et cetera. And then we ended up contacting the people who owned it and said, look, we can't get this together at the moment. Basically, we're going to have to let this go. And the guy who owned it was a couple of brothers and sisters and stuff. And he went, this land wants you. He said, we're willing to keep this land and see, when you can come up with the money. So then we started this. It was like, wow, it's like to be dealing with someone like that as well, that acknowledges this land actually desires you. Let's wait, And then we sort of started negotiation, or extrapolation is probably a better word, because it was the extrapolation of like, okay, so then what are the possibilities? How can this look? Like, how can this be? Because it wasn't like in 12 months time, we were going to go, here you go, we now have this lump sum. We didn't. So we made these deals that it was like, okay, what if we pay you $500,000 and then in 6 months we'll pay this other $500,000 and do this. And we sort of made this, and the price ended up being higher for us to purchase the property because we were taking a longer time, but they were willing to work with us. Yeah. So right from the beginning, I get that land in Costa Rica has knowing how to facilitate a different possibility, with people, as a
Totally.
business.
I mean, I think maybe even before I went there, like when you guys started talking about it, I was like, I started just connecting to it, like having this awareness of it and including it in my world, and then, after going there, I was like, whatever I can do, contribute to make this a reality, I'm in, and so from there, it was like, for me, I was just like, okay, this, like, it just has always been included in my world of like something that I'm contributing to, and also something that contributes to me, and like just that like simultaneity of gifting and receiving, and like such a cool, I mean, if we look at the business and different kind of, it's like seeing this creation as it is its own entity with its own consciousness, and, facilitating all of these people and all of these possibilities, and being in communion with that, and being in question, choice, possibility, contribution with that, like having those elements of creation with it, and talking to it. And it's like, over the years of the process of buying it and all this stuff, there's been so many different iterations of how we could contribute financially. And it's been so cool to it's like just to know it's going to be, and I mean, it is already, right? But to know that what's the creation of Eluga as the resort and the buildings and all of that is going to be. And now what? What's required today? What's this asking for today? What can we be in a greater way to allow this to be even faster and more and all of that today? And just being present.
It facilitated me not long ago. I was there. You haven't been there yet, have you, with any of the casas, the private
Not since
houses
the building started.
Okay, yeah. It is incredible. It's like I've been there over the last year or 18 months, like I think 3 times. And every time I go, obviously there's more built. And I've never been to a place that has this energy of where you're building, you're literally building bricks and mortar, and it seems to be adding to the land. It's just like, wow, this is so beautiful. It's amazing. The pool area, like last time I went there, I just walked in, I was like, holy shit. I'm like, this is incredible. I've never been to a pool area like this. I mean, Gary Douglas, it's like he's got chandeliers like as you enter in. And it's not, I mean, I don't know if that sounds gaudy or not. It's freaking beautiful and stunning and elegant. And the wet bar and the whole thing is just amazing. And I love, you swim in the pool, you've got this cocktail, and then there's cows in the paddock in front of you as the sun sets. And it's like, damn, it's so beautiful. And we were riding, David Kubis, who's been a major, contributor as well. We're riding, and there's a few people, in the property riding our horses around, and David's pointing out and going, this is, such and such's investment. This is this, all these investments. And I've invested. I've got a private investment. I've got a private casa, and I've also got an investment property there. And then we're riding along, and he goes, oh, this is, Ryan T, who's an investor, and he's also an access consciousness facilitator, his investment. And then we're riding further down. He goes, oh, this is Ryan T's. And I went, no. I said, Ryan T's is back there. And David went, no, that's Ryan T's as well. And he goes, and that's Ryan T's. And he has 3 investment properties there. And I went, it was so funny because I looked at him and I went, what? And I'm riding my horse, and I went, literally in my head, I'm like, you can do that? And I was like, of course you can do that. So that afternoon, David and I started talking, and we went around and made this video of what was, still available. And we invested in 2 more casas together. We did it together because we thought it would be fun. Because I was like, of course you can do that. You can have something greater. So already, it created this different reality for myself with investment, wealth creation, and what I could ask for and what I could receive. And I was like, wow, cool. Thank you for that. So,
well, when I invested, I did not have the cash to do it, and maybe would have used my whole like 10% account to do that. But I went in with 2 other ladies, and it was one of those things that I didn't let myself. We did all these fundraisers. There was a period of time where you could donate That was a long time ago where you could just donate, and so we did fundraisers and all these different things, and I donated money and whatever. And I was like, sure, I can donate, but investing, it had this different, like, I don't know, more of a,
it's putting your big girl pants on.
Totally. And so I just kind of like didn't let myself have that choice for a while. And then I was like, wait a minute, choice creates, like, let me do this. Like, I can choose it and the money will show up. I know how this works. And so we were in Costa Rica at a class, and I was signing the papers. I was getting ready to sign the papers. And I think I had like, a couple $1,000s of cash to put down. Like, it wasn't a huge chunk, but I was like, I'm going to create this. And the ladies that I invested with, I hadn't signed anything yet. And they come over to me and they go, well, we just decided to upgrade. And so now it's going to be double. And it was such a cool moment for me in my life, because I went, okay, well, if I can choose anything and create it from my choice and my request and what I'm willing to show up for, then I can choose double. Like, I just went, it doesn't really matter what the amount is, like, I can do that. Like, it works the same way with twice the amount of money. And I just went, okay, let's do it, and I signed, shortly after that and created it. And the way that it got created was also very cool. But it was really one of those moments where I went, I could either back out now, or I could just go, yeah, let's turn it up.
And let's turn it up. I love it. Let's turn it up. Because how many people, like, this is a great tool that we talk about in Access Consciousness as well. If it's not about the money, what would you choose? And we're not talking about, you're like, oh, it's not about the money, so I'm just going to go and do X, Y, Z. It's like, no, but how many times do you not choose something based on you've decided something about the money, rather than, if it's not about the money, what would you choose? And just indulge in that energy. Because if it's not about the money, what would you choose? And then have a look and go, oh, does that actually contribute to my life? Does that work for me? Because, as Heather said, you have this capacity to create more. And it's like, because she just doubled it, it doesn't mean that it's like, oh no, now it's double the work. No, it's actually double the request.
Yeah.
And it's like, and what are you willing to receive? It's so much about the receiving. So even just now, like, we're talking about this beautiful property in Costa Rica, and we're going to have in the show notes, like, we'll have the details of, Eluga, where you can start following us on Instagram. There's some beautiful photos. Oh my goodness, of all the animals and the building and the way it's being done, etc., and the beautiful flowers. One of the things that we did there was create this whole orchid place. So we've got all these orchids growing and all these trees and flowers and everything growing before any building went in, because it was like, well, this is going to take time to grow too. So we have that, so we can plant it all over the place, like the lemon trees, the lime trees, the avocado trees, all of it. It's so stunning. It's so beautiful. So if you follow us on Instagram, you can check that out as well. Totally forgot where I was going with that though. Anyway, I got excited about the avocado trees and the lemon trees and the lime trees.
The orchids.
I'm actually gonna have, when I was there last time, and I want the orchids, but I want at my private casa, because I every day I have lemons, cut it up, and lemon juice and stuff like that. And I want to have one at my private casa. So I've got a lemon tree, just like, it's like, pop them off, have my lemon juice, have an avocado tree, have the limes, all of that, Corona, lime, yum. How does it get any better than that? With the way the way it's been created is amazing.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I was going to say something about the business, but I want to tell you, because this keeps pinging into my head. There's these trees that they have there, and they're like this. I guess the trunk of the tree is very plain, like it's just this. It's and they used to use them they used them as like fences. So they'd plant these trees, so it would be this natural fence. What has happened with these trees is so amazing, and it's a true ecosystem of how nature works. And you look at it and you go, wow, that's how an ecosystem in business works. That's how an ecosystem in life works. these trees, and around the trunk, and the whole tree has just, just blown out with about 10 different species minimum on there of growing on this tree. And it's just so amazing to look. You're like, what the hell is that? It's like a work of art, like how nature has just put this together and they've grown, and then you get the toucans, like, resting on them as well. And it's like, wow, to see this like integration of how they just go, they just, I don't know, the seeds are like there, they land and they start growing, and then they start wrapping themselves around this tree, and then something else comes off, and then another branch, and all of this. And it's like, wow, it's like a fantasy land. I remember I used to read Enid Blyton and The Enchanted Forest, like all those books when I was little. And it's like that. It's like this like enchanted forest that you have there. But it's a true ecosystem in nature. And if we create that ecosystem in business, and how everything contributes, even the smallest little thing starts contributing to the growth and the exponentialization, like what could we create? Like what could we choose? What could show up?
Well, and even the things that you think aren't a contribution, like it makes me think of that movie, The Biggest Little Farm. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Oh, it's amazing. I love this movie. It's this couple that it's a, kind of like a documentary basically, where they buy this totally desertified land in California where it's like cracked and you can't even get a shovel into it. And the woman has this vision of creating this huge farm with traditional farming practices. And they they can't even dig in the ground. And then it becomes like they get, and they're not going to use machinery. They do all these, the tea and all this stuff that they use to reinfuse the soil with minerals and all that kind of stuff. And it's this amazing journey of, you watch over this period of 7 years where this land actually goes from completely dry, cracked, desertified to its own self-sustaining ecosystem with animals. And like, wow, they have so many different species. And one of the things that they talk about is how, because you see over the course of this movie, you see that where like, there's all of a sudden there's like this like snails have taken over, and they're like, oh my gosh, how do we handle this? There's a snail problem now. How do we handle the snails? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we can bring in ducks, and the ducks eat the snails, and then the duck poo goes into the soil, and everything becomes greater. And so the guy he basically says, what we learned to do was we learned to stand back. Like, because you see, this happens so many times where, oh, there's a problem we need to solve. But the problem, when they look from a different point of view, becomes part of the greater, the ecosystem becoming greater. So he says, we just learned that we need to stand back and look, basically, look from a different point of view. And kind of like pause for a minute, and realize that, like, and basically kind of like ask the question, what's right about this? I mean, in a lot of ways, he doesn't use that language. And you see it just like blossom and flourish and blossom and flourish and become this incredible ecosystem.
I love that.
Oh, it's such a beautiful film.
I just wrote it down, The Biggest Little Farm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love that you spoke about that too, and they think there's a problem. Because what if every time you thought there was a problem, instead of looking at the problem, you went, okay, if this was a possibility, what would I choose, or what is available? So turn the problem into a possibility, just like you said. It's like, what possibility is here that you haven't been willing to acknowledge? And do that in your business every single time something shows up. Like, this business of Eluga has been incredible. And I'm lucky enough that I work so closely with Gary as well, and work with the project, that I have been involved in a lot of the, the financial stuff, and how we do this, and what we're choosing, and and who's working there and who's not working there, and all that sort of stuff. The engineering, it's like, and the way we're creating this too is, we're not digging into the earth. We're not having these like, cement platforms. We're working with the land. So there's no trees that are being, cut down, etc. It's like, there's one house there, one casa. there that is created almost like around a tree. It's got this big, massive tree right at the front, and it's like built around it, and it looks amazing and it's beautiful. But what if we could work with what is there and not create something as a problem, no matter what business you're in? And I've seen so many things, like, I want to say, like these hurdles, like you jump over them. And sometimes we've jumped over these hurdles and gone, yay, or jumped over the hurdles and slipped and fall. And then it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do now? Are we going to give up? Or are we going to, brush the dirt off our knees and go, okay, now what? Now what next? And one of the biggest, Heather and I actually wanted to talk about this with, come on and do these podcasts, because we wanted people to be alerted about Eluga. And I'm actually going to ask for your help in a couple of ways. One is, let me tell you, because at the moment, if you're living under a rock and you don't realize that building supplies all around the world have just gone up, like the price of steel, the price of cement, all of it, it's just like skyrocketed, and taking a long time. Like here in Australia, it's crazy. But also in Costa Rica, and it was like an extra $5 million minimum for our steel that we needed. And every week that we wait, it's going up. So we went, okay, what else do we require to choose here? What action can we take? So do that with your business instead of going, oh my God, I give up, hands in the air. It's like I've failed. No, what other question can you ask? And you keep asking questions and you keep asking questions and go, what next? What next? And we have changed so many different things. This place is, I must get Liam Brumley on to do a podcast, actually. What he's created with how he's worked with the water there and everything is like, engineers around the world are going to be gobsmacked. And I'm not going to try and do it justice by explaining it, because he'll just go, what are you talking about? But I'm there. I receive it the way he works the whole water system there. It's like using, like, I don't know, a glass full of water as opposed to using like these gallons and gallons of water of what you could be using, like the wastage and all stuff like that is just being so fine tuned. It's wild. The place is friggin' amazing. So, but I am going to ask for your help. I'm going to ask for your help in a couple of different ways. If you're listening to this, please go follow us on Instagram, check it out. And even just ask, what can I contribute to the land? What can I contribute to Lugar? Because for me, I would like to have more places like this around the world that we can choose to create a different energy. Like you walk onto that property and it's just like, wow. And I'm actually going to put at the end of the podcast a couple of videos that we have on YouTube, and it shows you like the place of how we've been building it. And there's a beautiful one that shows the footage of Eluga, but it's also got Dane here doing, I guess it's more like an ESC over the top of it, so that you can get the visual of what we're talking about. And as Heather said before, she was tapping into the energy of the land, way before she even went there. And so you can do that right now too. So if you, right now, you're listening to it wherever you are in the world, even if you have not looked at a picture of it, that's so this reality. You got to look at a picture of it to tap into it. You don't. And so tap into the energy of the land and ask, your body and you to start receiving from the land, and what can you contribute to it and what can you receive from it. And everything at that is times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all known, shorts, boys, provids and beyonds, which is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. If you haven't heard it, you can check more out about it at theclearingstatement.com is the website. So, but you can receive from the entirety of the earth. And I would like to see us creating a different possibility here on the planet. And it starts with you. It starts with every single one of us making a different choice. So if you can contribute energetically, thank you. Super grateful, right? Please be that energy. And then also, I'm going to put in our show notes, etc. We've got loan bonds, which you can purchase, which is an investment. It's an investment. Hello. It's like, I think I've bought 15 loan bonds, and all the details are written in there, because you get 50% back over a period of 5 years, etc. So it's actually it's got like a good little piggy bank to put your money into. There's also CASAs available. You can still invest in there, and you can actually, someone I think 2 days ago purchased a CASA and was like, yes. So help us. I'm asking for your help to get this built with more ease. At the moment, there's a few hiccups, and yet we're still going. We got this. I know that. And what if you in your life and your business were willing to be that vulnerable that you would ask for help. Like, you're not less than because you're asking for help. You're not wrong because you are. Why are we all on this planet together?
Yeah.
To be in competition, to create separation, to reject each other? Or are we on this planet to actually contribute to each other in a really different way? It's like, I'm going for number 2. So if you're in for that, guys, please check it out. And I'm super grateful. So grateful for you, Heather, as well. Everything that you've been contributing.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful for you and this and the land and really the vision that Gary and Dane had for this. And, like I said before, it's like the moment I knew about this place, my life changed.
Yeah.
It started, it just, and I, like you said, I didn't have to see a photo or anything. I just to know that it was there and to know that something like this existed, changed so much for me. And I could include that in my world and let it give to me and give back to it in all the ways. And that's, to me, that is such the way that Business Done Different works, and it's a way of creation that I always knew was possible. I didn't have the words for it or the concepts until I met you and Gary and Dane and, the tools of access and joy of business. And it was the same kind of thing of like, I've always known this is possible. And finally somebody's, talking about it, inviting me to it, giving me tools to actualize that, and we can truly create anything that we desire. And especially now, there's so much crazy going on in the world if if that's what you pay attention to. And then there's also things like this that really are the creation of the future that I know I wish to see and be part of, and the planet that I wish to live on. And I'm so grateful that I'm not alone in that, like I thought I was for so long. And I wonder what magic is available for this, the creation of this that we've never considered.
And everything that doesn't allow that to show up, it's destroyed and uncreated.
Yeah.
Right, non, good, bad, pock and pot, all 9 shorts, boys, privates, and beyonds. Yeah, I mean, even if you just tap into the energy of myself and Heather, in this last part of this podcast, and it's like that. And I love the way you said that. I'm so glad I'm not alone. And this is everything you've been asking for and everything you've been seeking. And every single one of us have to choose. So, is there anything else you want to add here, Heather?
No, yeah. Very great.
That. Oh, I wanted to, as you were talking, actually, I do remember the guy who owned a property there was one thing that he said, and he said, the land has been waiting for you.
Yeah.
And it was really early on in the piece, and we were like, wow, for him, for starters, to acknowledge that and then let us know that from that energy, you're just like, what can we create? What can we choose?
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Heather, for playing with me here. I look forward to a cocktail in the pool at Eluga, watching the sunset and seeing the cows moo and everything. And it's it's incredible. So thank you so much. And everyone, please look in the show notes, etc. You'll have all the details in there. But if anything, just contribute to a greater world. Like, how does it get any better than this?
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at choice, change, and action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.